Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next in our series of what to look for in the night sky. We're talking about November 14th, 2022 this time around, midway through November. So the week of November 14th. This is the week that holds the Leonid meteor shower. So we'll talk about that at least just a little bit here. Sometimes, it used to be when we did these videos, if you've been following these for a couple of years now, it used to be that we didn't, we tried not to talk about things everybody else was talking about, but we've fallen into the habit of at least touching on some of those things. The Leonid meteor shower is a fine meteor shower. It typically, as we've talked about many times before, meteor showers occur at the same time each year when the Earth's orbit crosses the orbit of a comet, and we intersect the sort of tube of material that the comet has left behind. Comets get close to the sun, they boil off debris, dust, grit. We hit that dust and grit and we see meteors coming from the same point in the sky. That's called the radiant. So we can trace them back to the radiant, and then you can see they look like they're all coming from the same point. You don't have to be looking at the radiant. You can be looking way across the sky and you'll see meteors, but if you trace them back, they look like they came from the radiant. We named the meteor shower for the constellation in which the radiant resides, Leo, this time around. So we have the Leonid meteors. The Leonid meteors are interesting. Like all of the meteor showers we've been talking about, you'll read in the newspaper, you'll read online, wherever it is you read things, that this is the time to see those meteors. But that tube is big, and we're passing through a big trail of debris. And so the meteor shower tends to stretch on for a lot longer than most people think. And so you can get out there any time now and start looking for Leonid meteors. Leo's going to rise after midnight each night this week. And the moon, early in the week, the moon's going to be a little bit of an interference problem. So I would wait until later in the week as the moon's waning away. By the morning, you see, unfortunately, this is Leo right here. There's the triangle tail of Leo. And there's bright star Regulus at the base of the sickle that forms the head of Leo. And you see the moon on the evening of the 16th into the morning of the 17th. There's a right square here by Regulus. Fine to go out and look at that. And then the next morning it's down here below Danabola. Danabola is the tail. We've talked about this a lot too. A lot of things we've talked about a lot that we'll touch back on. Deneb, in Cygnus the swan, is the tail. So an Arabic word for tail. And then we've looked at Deneb al-Gadi and other Denebs. And this is Danabola. This is the tail of the lion right here. So that's all great. But the moon will be down here on the morning of the 18th, the evening of the 17th. It's waning away to about a third full. So it's not the most obnoxious moon in the history of moons. But still, if you want to go out and look at the meteor shower, my recommendation is go out right at midnight or a little bit before midnight even. Even if the radiant's not quite up in the sky. Look overhead and toward the east a little bit where the radiant will be coming up before the moon has a chance to be interfering. But, you know, anytime until 1 or 2 in the morning is probably fine. So go out 11 p.m. to 2 in the morning. That's my firm recommendation. 11 p.m. to 2 in the morning. Look for the meteors. Most years we pass through this material, and the Leonids are not one of the great, most prominent showers, and the angle we hit them at makes them come in fast, too. So they don't tend to give these big, bright, long burnings like the Geminids do. But they're fine meteors. And you're probably going to see 10 to 15 extra meteors per hour over the 5 to 10 that you would see anyway, random meteors out there. And so it's worth going out and checking out. Now, these are well known for producing storms. Rarely, but on occasion, we hit that dust cloud. Remember, I just keep making the tube of dust. We hit that at just the right spot where it's a dense, rich pocket of material, and all of a sudden there's meteors everywhere. And you get hundreds of meteors per hour. And I've seen at least a couple of predictions from people online that this year we could do that. I think I see a couple of predictions every year that it could be a meteor storm for the Leonids. So I kind of, it's unlikely, but it's worth going out. You don't know when it's going to be. So the peak, if you read out there, the peak's going to be in the morning of the 18th. So you go out on Thursday night around midnight into the early mornings of the 18th, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday the 18th. That's when the peak is supposed to be. If we have a storm, it might not be right when that peak is, and so you might be well served to be checking this out on the morning, the evening of the 16th into the morning of the 17th, and the evening of the 18th into the morning of the 19th. You're going to see meteors any of those 3 nights. So if it's clear and you're up and you want to look at the sky, go out and give it a look and recognize the moon is waning as it passes through Leo this direction. So that's what we got. Think about this. Maybe we'll see a few extra meteors, but if not, to make a meteor storm. But if not, we'll see the 10 to 15 per hour, which is a fine meteor shower and worth paying attention to. We've also talked about, so we've touched on Danabola, thinking about Deneb as a tail of something. Algeba, we've talked about many times, Gamma Leonis. And Gamma Leonis is a beautiful double star, an actual binary star, stars in orbit around each other. You got your small telescope out, go check it out. There's a couple of beautiful galaxies we often don't talk about here. A few good galaxies in Leo, but with the moon right there, we're going to not talk about them again. Maybe in a couple of weeks, remind me and we'll talk about these galaxies in Leo. But we're going to go look at something. So that's all stuff we've looked at before. We're going to look at some different things here. If you try this, if you move from Regulus up through, bright Regulus, up through the sickle shape, the backwards question mark shape that is Leo, and just sort of move straight on up here. I've probably drawn this a little too far left. You've got 2 faint stars, third to fourth magnitude stars, but that's actually the brightest star in the constellation Lynx. And Lynx stretches on up this direction as a string of really faint stars. So see if you can see these 2 stars here together as Lynx above. As you walk up above the sickle shape of Leo, maybe over to the right of what I've drawn. I didn't want to get too close to Castor and Pollux, the twin stars. So the twin stars. So you go from Danabola down to Regulus, and then up this direction and stretch it a little bit. You got to go a little bit further. You hit Castor and Pollux, the twin stars, with Gemini stretching off that direction. So there you've got, that gives you a way to zero in maybe on these stars of Lynx to identify a lesser known constellation. This is a good activity to try this week when you're out here keeping an eye out for Leonid meteors, is to look at these stars and see if you can identify a few of the stars of Lynx. Identify Castor and Pollux, and then if you go from Pollux to Castor, and 1.5 or so times that distance again on up this direction, there's a globular star cluster right there. And we've looked at globular star clusters before some. And what you want to do with the globular, think about the globular star cluster. This is an interesting one. This is a fun one you want to go out and observe. You've got a small telescope, see if you can find it. I don't know if you can see it in binoculars. It's pretty faint, but you might be able to if you've got good binoculars there. Find this. It's going to be just a fuzzy patch of light. But globular star clusters, perhaps you've seen us talk about this before. We're here. That's our galaxy. We're here in the disk of our galaxy. The globular star clusters live in a halo around the middle of the galaxy. And we need to look then toward the middle of the galaxy to see these globular star clusters. 88 constellations in the sky. They cover the entire sky. 50% of our globular star clusters live in 3 constellations, Ophiuchus, Sagittarius, and Scorpius. So 50% of them, you have to look here, you got this nice tight halo. This one is called the Intergalactic Wanderer because it's way away from this halo. You got to look way out here. So it's very distant, and despite it being so distant, you can actually see it in a small telescope. And so it's pretty bright. It's this big luminous globular star cluster that's way out here, somehow detached from the main group of globular star clusters. So it got out here wandering around, so we call it the Intergalactic Wanderer, and it's kind of fun to think about this geometry, where we are looking at the globular star clusters around the center of the galaxy, and to see that there's one way out there someplace away from all of the others, and on the, well on its way to being, close to another galaxy. That's why we call it intergalactic. It's not an intergalactic space, and so this is an interesting globular star cluster. I didn't look it up. I haven't read a lot about this globular star cluster. I like to look at it whenever I'm poking around this region of the sky if I've got a telescope out. But so I haven't paid a lot of attention. I'm sure there are plentiful theories about how it got out there, how it got kicked out of our distribution, or we captured it from somebody else's distribution of globular star clusters. Again, like I said, there's an exploration for you. You want another project, go out and see what you can find, what people have written about NGC 2419, the Intergalactic Wanderer. And that's what we got for you this week. Go out, check out some Leonid meteors. If you want to, watch the moon close to Regulus, a nice pairing. See the double star, binary star Algeba, if you like. See if you can identify a couple of stars in Lynx, which maybe you've never done before. And it's not something I do very much, let me tell you that. And then you've got this Intergalactic Wanderer globular star cluster sort of above Castor and Pollux and Gemini. It's in the constellation Lynx. That's what made me think of it as we were doing this. So this is in this constellation of Lynx right here, sort of on the border between Lynx and pushing over in the direction of Gemini, although it's well above Gemini there. So anyway, that's your week ahead. I hope you have clear skies, and I hope you have some good observing, everybody. And as always, thanks for watching.